Hey guys, plot recap here. Today I'm going to explain the movie Justice High, released in the year 2020. All relevant links and information for the film will be in the description down below. Before we know more about it, you can support the channel by liking, subscribing, and activating the notifications. It's free and it really helps us to keep growing. Now let's dive in. The movie opens up by introducing us to Chae-young as she walks down the hallway at school. All the other kids at school appear to be cheering, and some throw paper planes her way. Chae-young is known to be a short-tempered girl who doesn't tolerate when anyone is being bullied. Previously, Chae-young gets into a fight with some boys who are bullying students at school. Since she is getting in too many fights, she is expelled from her school. The boys who she fought earlier stop her outside the school, but are too scared to attack her. Instead, they only ask her to keep her promise of never returning to school. In the following scene, we see Chae-young's father, Mr. Yang, who owns a martial arts training institute. He is a black belt and has been training his daughter in several forms of martial arts from a young age. The scene shifts to the father-daughter duo going to a new school to apply for a transfer. While the head teacher accepts Chae-young's transfer application, she warns her of the policy that any student who engages in fighting gets expelled. She also mentions how the school just suspended a bully last week due to violent behavior. Hearing this, Mr. Yang explains that his daughter isn't a bully, but only protects those who are being bullied. The teacher asks Chae-young to join the school next week after midterm examinations. As they walk outside, Chae-young is annoyed at her father for telling the teacher about her past. However, her father explains that there will be bullies at the new school too, which is why she needs to be patient. Outside the school, a boy named Jong-gu is being bullied by a group of kids for not letting them cheat on his paper in the exam. When Chae-young sees this, she starts making a video of the bullies on her phone. Unfortunately, one of the bullies sees her filming and confronts her. Initially, Chae-young thinks that she should only report the bullying to the school principal, but when two girls start threatening to beat her up, she resorts to her old ways of fighting. There are 4 bullies and only one Chae-young, but she blocks their attacks and beats them down effortlessly. During all this, Jong-gu is shocked to see her react in such a brave and powerful way. The scene shifts to 1 week later when it is Chae-young's first day at school. When she enters, she notices that the boys she beat up last week and Jong-gu are all in her class. Chae-young takes a seat at the back of the class, just behind Jong-gu. He is delighted to see her and tries to say hello, but she ignores him. Later, after school, Jong-gu approaches Chae-young to thank her for protecting him from the bullies. However, with a stone-cold expression on her face, she tells him to stay away from her and pretend like he doesn't know her at all. In the following scene, we see Jong-gu's mother serving 2 rude customers at her small diner. These men are drunk and refuse to pay the bill for their food. When they start attacking his mother, Jong-gu steps up to confront them. However, he gets beaten up again and the men leave without paying. The next day at school, a popular girl named Se-na stops Chae-young in the hallway. She asks Chae-young for her phone because she wants to delete the video of her friends bullying Jong-gu the other day. Since Chae-young refuses, Se-na tries to slap her. Using her quick reflexes, Chae-young catches her hand and shoves her to the floor. This leaves Se-na humiliated in front of the entire school. Later in the day, Jong-gu approaches Chae-young again and asks her to teach him martial arts. Although she is reluctant, she agrees to help him after learning about how he wants to protect his mother. She takes him down to her father's training institute, where Mr. Yang invites him to join classes the next day onwards. In the following scene, we see the student council president Jin-hyuk being praised by the principal for handling his position well. However, the principal doesn't know that all the bullies at school are Jin-hyuk's minions. A few moments later, Se-na and Hae-sung come to Jin-hyuk's student council room to complain about Chae-young's behavior. Se-na says that Chae-young should be punished for humiliating her and attacking the dignity of her seniors. Turns out that Jin-hyuk and Hae-sung have been friends since childhood, but there has been a rift in their relationship lately. Now the 2 boys are in a complicated love triangle with Se-na. Jin-hyuk likes Se-na, but she likes Hae-sung. However, they put their differences aside and promise to teach Chae-young a lesson for humiliating Se-na. After school, Jong-gu goes to his first training class. Mr. Yang makes him do push-ups, skipping, and stretches to prepare him for martial arts. Chae-young is also training alongside Jong-gu and keeps pushing him to do better. The next day, Jong-gu can barely walk straight due to all the training. As Chae-young walks past him, she pats his back and says that he will get tougher with time. During a lunch break, two boys call Chae-young to the student council room to meet Jin-hyuk. He confronts her about her fight with Sae-na, but she says that she was only defending herself. She also tells Jin-hyuk about how Sae-na's friends were ganging up and bullying Jong-gu earlier. Hearing this, Jin-hyuk is infuriated by Chae-young's disrespect. However, Hae-sung seems intrigued by her confidence and asks her to apologize and leave. Even though Jin-hyuk is the student council president, students seem to respect Hae-sung so much more than him. In the following scene, we see Chae-young and Jong-gu back at the training class. Here, Jong-gu tells her that he is surprised that she doesn't have any friends despite being smart, strong, and beautiful. She responds by saying that letting people into her life means giving them the power to walk out of it too. However, Jong-gu says that even if people leave, the memories will stay. Chae-young is touched by his words, but she keeps her feelings to herself. The following scene shifts to Jin-hyuk, Sae-na, Hae-sung, and their entire group celebrating the return of Kang-sik, the student who was suspended for bullying. While everyone else drinks and smokes, Hae-sung seems uninterested in boasting about beating people up. A few moments later, Hae-sung and Jin-hyuk step out of the party to talk. Here, Jin-hyuk reveals that he is joining a gang and only has to pay some money to get in. When Hae-sung tries to tell him that this isn't a good idea, the two get into a serious argument. The next day at school, Jin-hyuk is approached by the gang leader named Sang-jin, who threatens him to pay the entrance fee quickly. While Jin-hyuk is dying to join the gang, Sae-hung isn't interested at all. When Sang-jin offers to waive the entrance fee for him to join the gang, Hae-sung just gets up and walks away. After this, Jin-hyuk is infuriated and wants to take his anger out on someone. Coincidentally, he chooses Jong-gu and asks two of his minions to bring him to his office. These two boys go up to Jong-gu and try to terrorize him into going into Jin-hyuk's office. When they start punching him, Jong-gu can defend himself. For a brief moment, we think that Jong-gu is finally able to stand up to the bullies. Unfortunately, this was only Jong-gu's imagination. In reality, he is being beaten up again. Suddenly, Hae-sung approaches and stops the bullies. He asks them not to follow every order that Jin-hyuk gives them. However, Kang-sik shows up from behind and attacks Hae-sung. Kang-sik throws punches and kicks at Hae-sung for trying to act like he is above Jin-hyuk. At this moment, Chae-young intervenes and asks Jong-gu to come with her to class. As they walk ahead of the bullies, Kang-sik decides to attack Chae-young from behind. To his bad luck, she can fight much better than him and defeats him with her impeccable martial arts skills. Watching this, Hae-sung becomes attracted to Chae-young. Afterward, he asks Jong-gu to take him to the training center. As soon as they arrive, Hae-sung enrolls in the training class and Mr. Yang looks thrilled to have more students. During class, Chae-young asks Hae-sung why he's being nice to her and Jong-gu, even though he's friends with the bullies. Hae-young says that he has decided to leave that life behind and needs to learn how to protect himself. The next day at school, Sae-na and Chae-young run into each other in the staircase. Before the two could get into another fight, Hae-sung intervenes and asks Chae-young to go to class. This makes Sae-na angry, who then confronts Hae-sung about why he has been so distant lately. She confesses that she likes him, but he tells her that she's just a friend for him. Later, during training class, Chae-young and Hae-sung are alone when she asks him about his true intentions. He says that he pursued boxing back in middle school and wants to resume his training now. Since Hae-sung used to be a bully, Chae-young challenges him to a boxing match to take out her anger. Even though Hae-sung tries to intimidate her in the beginning, he can't land a single punch. Eventually, she defeats him effortlessly. When he's down on the ground, Chae-young says that power without justice is just violence. The scene shifts to the next morning at school, where Jin-hyuk gets a call from gang leader Sang-jin to pay the entrance fee immediately. Since Jin-hyuk doesn't have the cash, he and his minions start bullying the kids at school and stealing their money. When Jong-gu sees a few students being bullied, he tries to help them by attacking the bullies, but only gets beaten up badly. That day at the training center, Jong-gu tells Mr. Yang about the situation at school. Hearing this, Mr. Yang starts training his students rigorously. We see a montage of Jong-gu and Hae-sung putting all their efforts into training and getting better at martial arts. A few days later, Mr. Yang leaves town for some work. At this point, Chae-young has become good friends with both Jong-gu and Hae-sung. The three decide to watch a movie together and even go to the arcade where they have a lot of fun. Later, Hae-sung takes them to his favorite place, which coincidentally happens to be Jong-gu's mother's diner. The mother is super happy to see that her son finally made friends at school. While they are headed back home, Chae-young and Hae-sung stop at a grocery store, where he reveals that he was physically abused by his boxing teacher for 2 years before getting out of there. He also mentions how he became friends with people who were a bad influence after that. Chae-young says that she appreciates how he is trying to change now and wants to help him in the process. The next morning at school, Hae-sung asks Jin-hyuk what he's up to. He reveals that he paid the entrance fee for the gang and will be joining them the next day. From now on, the entire school will be ruled by the delinquent gang. Hearing this, Hae-sung is infuriated and they start arguing. Things escalate quickly as the fight becomes physical and Jin-hyuk threatens to hurt Chae-young because he knows that Hae-sung likes her. In the following scene, Jin-hyuk asks Se-na to help him attack Chae-young in exchange for getting Hae-sung. Chae-young is in class when she gets a text from Se-na asking her to come to the student council room. Here, Se-na serves her some tea and apologizes for everything that happened. But just as Chae-young is about to take a sip of her tea, Se-na pushes it away and the tea spills everywhere. Turns out the tea is drugged, and Se-na realizes that what she's doing is wrong. Meanwhile, Jin-hyuk barges in and slaps Se-na for not following the plan. Kang-sik traps Chae-young in a lock from behind, and Jin-hyuk starts throwing punches at her. Somewhere else, Jong-gu overhears some students talking about Chae-young and Jin-hyuk. He realizes that she is in trouble and runs to Hae-sung to tell him. When Hae-sung calls Jin-hyuk, he asks him to come to the school auditorium if he wants to save her. At the auditorium, Hae-sung and Jong-gu are surrounded by Kang-sik and all of Jin-hyuk's minions. They start attacking each other, but this time Hae-sung and Jong-gu are trained enough to defend themselves. Even though they get hit many times, they are still able to defeat all the bullies by the end of the fight. After this, they rush to the student council office to find Chae-young tied to a chair by Jin-hyuk. He threatens to kill her right here if they take another step forward or call the police. Then he makes Hae-sung kneel in front of him and kicks him repeatedly for betraying him. However, Jong-gu steps up and attacks Jin-hyuk with a trick that he learned from Mr. Yang. But Jong-gu can only defend himself from Jin-hyuk for some time, before he overpowers and attacks him ruthlessly. During this chaos, Chae-young frees herself from the chair and is prepared to fight Jin-hyuk with all her strength. He might be part of a delinquent gang, but he's still only a bully to Chae-young. She confidently attacks and throws kicks at him until he is on the floor. In the end of the movie, we go back to Mr. Yang's training institute, where multiple women have enrolled to learn self-defense skills. While Chae-young and Jong-gu wait for their turn, Hae-sung is outside enrolling a teenager into class. That was all from the video. I hope you liked it. Subscribe for more content like this and hit the like button to help us out. Also, leave a comment if you want us to recap your favorite movie. Until next time, take care.